Harry and Jack Williams. First of all, I have to ask, will there be a third season of The Missing?
Will there, Harry?
Will there? Will there, Jack? I don't know. I think with the second one, it took us a really. I think we did the second one saying the only way we're going to do this is if we have a story we want to tell that feels sort of different and kind of new enough that excites us enough to tell it. And I think with the third one, we're certainly open to it. I think it's just we haven't had that idea yet, so we don't know what it is. And if we did do it, it would have to, it'd have to be very different. I think again, like the second one was.
Yeah, we keep thinking we want to, but we don't have any. We haven't made any progress towards doing so.
It was a very intense period those first two seasons, because it was 4 solid years of that really. So I think we're just a little time off doing some other things, and then maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, you say you don't have ideas for another season of The Missing, but it seems like you've got plenty of other ideas. Why are you working on so many things at the same time?
Greed,
fear,
naked greed, fear. I think we spent 8 years not getting anything made, and we got into the habit of having lots of ideas all the time that we wanted to write, and being unemployed. So now we're employed. We're trying to write as much as we can. And
it sort of looks like we're slightly busier than we are in some senses. We've got 2 shows coming out at the end of this year at the same time, but one of them was commissioned, I think, a full 18 months before the other one. It just took that long to get the script ready and get the production ready, and the BBC wanted it at a certain time. So I think sometimes it looks like we're busier than we are. Because the way things are aired.
And we're producing a lot of shows that other people are writing, so it looks like things that are coming from our stable, but actually there's lots of other writers involved at the moment as well. So we've lightened the load for ourselves.
All right, and one of those other shows is Fleabag. So can you tell me about what your role on that was as executive producers?
So we met Phoebe about 4 years ago, and she had the first few lines of this monologue, and we were like, "Oh, that's hilarious! You're amazing. Let's do that." And that thing ended up being Fleabag. And while we were developing the TV show, she actually wrote the one-woman play, which she then took to Edinburgh and did very well. And so we developed it with her and sort of tried to help, make it look as good as we possibly can on screen and get the right talent involved.
Our role was just to find a way to tell a comedy that was also very cinematic and at times quite dramatic. I think we helped her shape the scripts and the story, and particularly with something like that that's got a very singular voice, it's quite important to make sure that's preserved all the way from the script to the screen, and making sure that all the different influences of people who want to make it better are actually making it better and not worse.
Exactly.
Now, you two kind of have a bit of a comedy background. So how do you feel about the show Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which is, has a very similar premise as the second season of The Missing, but approaches it much differently?
I love Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's really funny.
Yeah, very funny. Missing. Yeah, what do you think?
What do I think? I think I'm amazed they made that into a comedy, which I think I can see why I end up on Netflix. But that's, it's great that there's no subject that's off limits. I think we'd never have done it that way, because I think our comedy wasn't very funny. And I think what's great about that show is there's a joke every 5 seconds, and if you don't find one of them funny, there'll be something else brilliant coming along. I don't think we ever worked like that. When we wrote comedy, it was absolute painstaking misery.
Our comedies were about as funny as The Missing 2 was.
I mean, it was just horrible. You'd write it and then you'd try and think of jokes, and it was just honestly like hours of pitching terrible lines at each other and then just settling for the one thing we thought wasn't awful. And then
comedy's really hard. Working with Phoebe, I mean, she's way better at writing comedy than we ever were, and it's a joy to watch. But God, I'm glad I'm not writing it anymore, because it
was a bit of an accident, really. I think the first script I ever wrote, as a comedy drama, and then all the people in drama said it was too funny. I think they're being polite, but I got overexcited, and it went to someone in the comedy department at the BBC, and then they turned it into a half-hour sitcom, and then Harry worked on it with me, and then I think we decided that was the way forward, that sitcoms was our thing, but I think we were wrong.
We were definitely wrong. As time told.
But never mind, you live and learn. We only wasted 7 years of our life.
It's only 7 years. What are you going to do in 7 years?
Something like, majority of our professional.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Now, on the missing in the second season, it wasn't necessarily funnier, but I would say the tone was quite different. It was much faster paced. You had this big conspiracy, whereas the first season I found more just kind of about the misery of having a missing child. So can you tell me about the differences between the two seasons in terms of tone and style?
Yeah, I think the second one was very different. It felt very different. It was more like a puzzle. It was way more complex. There was a lot more going on. And we were worried about that, actually, when we wrote it. I think that people would struggle to keep up with that. I think people enjoyed unpicking that puzzle. Whereas the first one was a much more visceral sort of emotional experience, seen through the lens of the parents of this kid. But yeah, they just had very different tones, and that they were dictated by the story and the nature of the narrative.
Because I think that's the thing. The main thing was we didn't want to repeat ourselves in any way, and in season 1 we delved a lot into the emotional fallout of a missing child, and given the subject matter in season 2 is obviously very similar. She has been missing and come back, but still it's very similar setup for the narrative. To just spend a long time with parents and seeing and tracking just that as your sole focus felt like it would be repetitive. So to have that as one element among many, the detective and ultimately the guy responsible, just felt like it could be a bit more rounded as an approach, where season 1 was a bit more singular.
Yeah, and 2 is a lot, different landscapes, a lot bigger. The themes of 2 were sort of freedom and all its sort of forms, and it went all the way to Iraq, all the way to Joe. So it's sort of, we wanted to expand it and do a bit more with it than stick in one town, I think, as we did with the first one.
We did.
Yeah, so with the second season, encompassing so much, why are you still writing, why are you not planning out everything in advance? Like, I've seen a number of interviews where you're saying that you're changing things along the way, even kind of major plot twists.
I always find whenever you plan everything out piece by piece, the fun of writing it gets lost, because you know where you're headed, and then it becomes a race to get there. And that's fine. If you're doing a 2 or 3-parter, then that's great to know. I would say, we're slightly disingenuous about that. I'd say whenever we write something, we know where the characters end up. We know what the last scene is. I think
we always know the last scene is, and that never changes.
But the last scene is never plot. It's never, oh, it was that guy, or that's not what's interesting. That's not why you watch things. The last scene is always, where does our lead character or set of characters end up?
And why is that interesting in relation to where he started?
And how we watch that change. So we definitely have that planned.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you get locked into specifics of, sometimes we've been trying to plot something today, actually, where we thought we had the most. We've got a really good ending to it, but just there's nothing happening.
Nothing in the middle.
25 minutes leading up to it.
There's no meat, there's no patty in the bun.
It's like there's a great first act and a really good last act, and then we're like, what are they doing? And then you can have that thing like
jazzing around.
They can wander around asking people questions, but that's not great. So sometimes you've got to be a bit more flexible, which I think every writer does. But anything really,
no,
that's all.
No.
One thing that happens in the second season finale is, the death of Sam. So why was that necessary?
Budget reasons.
Budget reasons. We had to get rid of him. We couldn't get him in the last scene. His contracts
too expensive. Well, I think that's it. We wrote it without it for the first 3 drafts.
That came in quite late. Yeah, I think we were trying to find, he had done, he'd cheated on his wife so much. He'd done so many wrong things that finding redemption for him felt like a difficult thing to achieve in such a short space of time. It felt like, weirdly, it just felt like the right ending for that character, and it felt like him leaving just was right in the moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's been in denial about this for so long that the notion that he awakens to the reality of it and then can't quite deal with it and has to expire at the same moment just seems sort of dramatically apt and interesting. And actually, the version where they all got back together, you sort of knew they weren't all going to get back together, and actually weirdly undermined what was, we think, the most emotional moment when, Gemma first sees her daughter again in the middle of that forest.
And she hugs her and the dad's being carted away. That's way more emotional because it's still messy and it's
he loses and you gain, but he's had a certain kind of redemption. But if he's there too, slightly on the fringes,
they're all there holding hands and thinking, well, I get some.
You're back, but you won't believe the shit that went on while you were gone.
Yeah, and he's going to have to explain it to her, and it's awkward. And
it's odd. It weirdly never quite
And also just, you know, the reality of that situation, he's got a gun in the middle of this mountain and, you know, it is a life or death thing. And having that just gives you stakes and drama as well that is necessary in a drama.
Yeah, we didn't intend to, but it had to happen.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask about the end of the first one as well. Was there ever a time where you thought about just not resolving kind of the mystery of what happened to Ollie, just just kind of keeping it open, and then it's just more about, you know, as I said, the misery of these parents?
Some people felt that we didn't resolve it, I think.
Some people felt it was too open. It was quite controversial.
Yeah, you got lots of...
Particularly here, oddly. I think less so in the States, from what I could read.
I think they got what we're trying to do in the States a little more, frankly, because I think the way it was edited, actually, you know, he did the picture of Ollie, what he would have looked like 10 years on was very much looked like the kid who opened the door in that apartment in Russia, which didn't help things because it made it look like actually maybe that was Ollie, which we would never have done. Frankly, he had gone mad, and that was the ending. But the ending for that was always the same thing. That Tony, it opens with him going, "I found something." You know, he wound up convinced of something, and it ended with that exact same kind of version of a scene, except he's been on this journey. He's kind of found out, and he kind of knows, but he can't, you know, he can't come to that conclusion himself. He can't admit it to himself, so he goes mad.
A lot of people asked us, like, well, "Oh, a great cliffhanger! We can't wait to see what happens next." And
Yeah.
we're going,
That would be so awful, wouldn't it? Yeah.
we talked briefly about that version when we were trying to see what the
He's in
thing was.
Thailand, rocking around with
It was
a
awful.
goatee.
You don't want that. You may think you do, but you don't.
I want that.
You talk about different reactions from like the States or United Kingdom, but one thing about the show is that you have tons of language that is not subtitled. So are you finding that you're getting different reactions from people who actually speak the languages?
We definitely struggled with the first season in France because there's a real, I mean, it's an ongoing thing. We script what's subtitled, what isn't, and then in the cut we decide what to subtitle, what isn't, and then we decide how to translate. Like, it's all an ongoing thing, and that's how you get Tony's, you know, sense of isolation in the first season, and we do the same thing in the second quite often. And I think in France they definitely struggled with the first season to make any sense of when people were already talking French, having someone who didn't understand French.
Yeah, it didn't quite work the other way around.
It didn't really matter anywhere else. It didn't matter for the second, which
Second one they liked
much better in
yeah.
France. But the first season didn't really do very well because they were like, "I don't get it. What's going on?"
They also had to cut about 20 minutes out of it, which I couldn't bear to watch the cut.
Yeah, they cut so much out of it. It didn't make much sense, to be honest. So sorry, France. But
Sorry, France.
They can buy it on DVD, I guess.
yeah, and they won't.
The DVD.
You don't look at DVD?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So how is it working with Starz and the BBC? What do each of them bring?
They're all very nice and they treat us very well.
They're treating us brilliantly.
Right?
They're great, actually. They're very good to deal with. Very clear notes and help, and they're different kinds of notes from the different broadcasters.
Yeah, the BBC tend to be much more sort of broadly, where are you going, is that the right thing, emotionally, and Starz tend to be really specific, which is really
the detail, yeah. They see a lot of things that we miss.
Some of the things they spotted are amazing. That no one else seemed to have noticed, and much better on the sort of, and they're very, I think the BBC tend to be much more big picture stuff, but Starz are watching the dailies and, you know, on that level. So it's quite good to have both approaches, I think.
All right. So when you came back, you had a different director for, you know, the complete season. So did you ever consider bringing Tom Shanklin back, and how did you find it?
Cool. We asked him several times. We asked him repeatedly. But he went off to do a Netflix show. Yeah.
And I think he didn't repeat himself. I think he'd done the first one. And you know, it killed him 8 hours. You know,
it was out in Belgium, for that long.
Over year of his life.
Yeah.
He was involved at early stages looking at developing it and talking about it. He just couldn't commit for that long. In a way, it was quite good because having someone new and having a new shorthand is it makes you all try a bit harder. I think we might have got a bit lazy with Tom.
It made us nervous because we were like, oh God, can we do it on our own? Is it going to be a much harder thing? And it was a bit scary because, you know, it was such a great experience, that first one. We got on with him so well and we're still good friends. So it was a bit scary, but you know, hopefully it paid off.
With the many Emmys.
that we haven't won.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, Tom actually was nominated for an Emmy, and then we have the Emmys coming up again, so I've got my fingers crossed for you guys. But why are you guys competing in the limited series categories instead of the ongoing drama series categories?
I think that describes our writing ability, isn't it?
Limited.
Why
are we?
Comedic ability.
I suppose because it is a brand new sort of story completely. You're in a different place. There's one character who recurs, but in the way that Fargo has, there is a character from that in the second one, the first and second, but the story is completely different. It's none of the same characters, really.
None of really. I suppose the test for us is like if you change Baptiste for someone else, I don't think it would affect the story or the show.
You could have another detective.
The fact that it's the same person is a nice connectivity. Thematically, it's all the same things, and we like the fact that it's got a visual kind of feeling that's similar, but actually. It's so much work. It is reinventing an entirely new show because it's other than.
Yeah, it sounded good at the time going, well, let's do a brand new story, but actually the reality is it's twice as much work because you've got to build a world from the ground up and all the new characters and all that. Returning would be a lot easier.
Yeah, second series is much better because you've got the same bunch of people in the same place just doing the same things but slightly differently.
Yeah.
But alas, we couldn't do that, sadly.
All right. And finally, how do we tell you two apart? What do each of you bring that's like this your touch to the stories?
Glasses, attitude.
Glasses, attitude, legs.
In terms of what we bring to it, or just physically?
Well, you've already answered the physically, so.
I have indeed. What do we bring to it? I think
to the show.
Yeah, I think I tend to be a bit more detail focused and a bit more sort of microcosm, and you tend to be big ideas kind of guy. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I would agree.
He would agree.
Okay, thanks very much, you two. We look forward to Liar, Relic, and all these other things you have coming up.
We look forward to disappointing you with all of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.